Israel to us was always part of our history and part of our being. My father fought in the '67 war. My mother was a teacher in Israel. We lived there until I was 8 years old. And I think my parents were very, very concerned I would lose my Jewish identity. And so it's very important for them to have us learn the language and to have a connection to Israel. I was in University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, 18, 19 years old. Somebody comes to me and says, we're going to be doing this political event, talking about the U.S. Israel relationship. Why don't you come and join?
The seed of pro-Israel involvement was planted. But it wasn't until years later that Eric reconnected to AIPAC after the terrible events of 9/11.
I remember I got out of the subway, I was walking through Times Square, and I remember it was the ABC big screen TV, and I saw everybody standing there. And I walked up, and I remember I said to somebody, what happened? They said, an airplane struck the Twin Towers. My mother-in-law worked there, and I was very close with her, and I picked up the phone and couldn't reach her. And then called my father-in-law and said, have you heard from Arlene? And we came to grips with what it was, and we grieved, and little by little, we started to almost move on. And I said to myself, it's a world problem. It's not a problem that just Israel faces. And I realized that, I had to do something. And so because of that event I was at when I was in college, I'd heard of AIPAC, and so I picked up the phone and I called and I said, how can I get involved? Yossi, good news on the event tonight. We got something like
What's so special about Eric Zoller is that even though he has a young family and a dynamic career, he still makes the time to do great things for the pro-Israel movement. And Eric Zoller is a model for many people of his generation to be as engaged as one can possibly be right now and not have to say, I'll do it tomorrow.
I might be picking up the phone to solicit somebody for AIPAC to join as a club member. It might be to just talk about policy issues with people. But every single week, I make sure that I'm doing something for the pro-Israel movement.
For a very special evening, we especially want to...
Eric's dedication led him to increase his political involvement, engaging his Wall Street colleagues.
What is really key about Eric is his passion, and when he sits down with people to try to convince them to get involved in politics, he connects very well with people.
He said the magic words, which were, what have you done in your life to make an impact?
He's tenacious, he continues to talk to them, follow up with them.
It's actually kind of extraordinary. I sort of felt like I'd been awakened from kind of a big sleep.
It's great to come to policy conference. It's great to go to educational meetings. All that's really, really important. But you also have to be willing to write a check. You have to be willing to show up. And you have to be willing to come to a political event.
Eric works to build strong relationships with members of Congress from both sides of the aisle, especially those with few Jewish constituents.
So I ended up going out and building a relationship with Jeb Henserling. I came in, was very, very nervous.
I do recall thinking, why is this New Jersey Yankee coming into my office? Well, we have struck up a wonderful friendship.
Talked about my wife and my kids, and he talked to me about why he got involved in politics. It was over time that we started to have more of a discussions around policy.
He doesn't come in with a lot of flash, but he has always done his homework. And you see the passion. Passion doesn't always come from cheerleading. Passion comes from consistency, from sincerity, from knowledge, and Eric has all of that.
I grew up in a house where we talked a lot about Israel, but we didn't do a lot about it. It wasn't really until 9/11 happened, and I realized that, I can't sort of lead from behind. What can I do to help? What can I do to make a difference? And I want my kids not to only hear about it and talk a lot about it. I want them to know they have to. It's important to do something in terms of pro-Israel activism. I commit to AIPAC because in many ways I think it's the only way to really bend history, to help Israel, to change the course of the outcome of events. It's our responsibility to do something to help.